It's crazy how our perception of an experience or anything can actually be more impacted by the simplest things. And this is a kind of a rambling rant about psychological effects on things and sales and marketing, all that self help stuff like that. But I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and I've just been watching a couple of different podcasts about this. Some were from months and months ago, even a couple of years ago, and others I'd kind of come back to, and some new ones as well. And in particular, there's one kind of advertising person and marketeer called Rory Sutherland, who's an author as well. And the specific story I was actually listening to him mention a couple of years ago now that I'd kind of gone back to is the kind of psychological effects that aren't taken into account when trying to improve something. Now, obviously, as someone that's trying to build a new agency, trying to acquire and attract new clients, thinking about the service delivery, thinking about what you're actually offering and what are you doing for those clients. And obviously, that's the foundations, like your service, whatever your business does, and then fulfilling that product or service for the customers or clients. That's like business 101. But then it's kind of looking into the psychology behind it all and like, okay, well, what causes things to be, you know, perceptually better than other things? And then I started thinking about like worst case scenarios, and I started taking into account this kind of analogy, this real life story that Rory Sutherland explained on a podcast. I think it was actually a TED talk where it was, I don't know exactly where it was, but basically it was like a rail line, and they they asked an engineering type question of how do we improve this rail, or how do we reduce the journey time, or how do we overall improve the rail experience? And they basically said like, well, the engineer's answer to this is let's reduce the journey time, let's improve the overall mechanics of the train line, and basically make it a shorter, more efficient journey. And then they asked psychologists or marketers, whoever it may have been, their answer, and they said, well, why don't we improve the experience instead and give people peace of mind? So instead of shortening the journey by 6 minutes, if it's a 2 hour long or an hour long journey, shorten it by 6 minutes, that might cost tens of millions or hundreds of millions. Whereas why don't we spend maybe a few 100,000 at most, or maybe just tens of thousands, maybe add a couple of new comfier cushions on the first class seats, add, dining experience, add some beverages, hot, cold foods and drinks and things, add plug sockets so people can plug their things and charge stuff while they're on a train, just generally improving the experience of the journey, and also more importantly, giving people peace of mind by having digital signage on the train and at stations to tell them when the train is coming and how long it's going to take. So that way, you've got the kind of Uber model, which is basically peace of mind, which is how long the train's going to take and where you are and how long it's going to be. But then you've got just the overall improvement of experience, which is, well, originally I was just sat on this train for an hour. I didn't know how long it was going to take. It was all based on gambles, and so the experience just wasn't psychologically as nice as I'm sat on the train, I can plug my phone and my laptop in, I can do some work if I want to, I can, sit in a nice comfy chair with a slightly comfier cushion, I can order a drink or food or whatever it might be, and the overall experience is nicer, which has an improved psychological effect on the customer. And that was just the difference in how to improve a rail, the investment in a railway differed just by asking a different type of question. Like sometimes it'll be like the engineerial type person might want to work on the mechanics and improve the time or whatever it might be, whereas someone else wants to think of the kind of psychological shifts you can make in subtle ways that don't cost maybe tens of thousands or millions even, that still improve the experience. And this is in so many ways. I mean, this is literally like what I said, the Uberized experience. This is the Uber model. And I am aware I'm rambling, so please feel free to kind of, juggle between the right times you actually want to watch, the specific points in this video. But I think I've mentioned this before in one of the other kind of more selfie style rambles I've made, is that one of the realizations I had is that Uber and even Airbnb, a lot of middleman businesses or middleman business models, which is basically Amazon, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, all these business models where they are the middleman for a product or service. And look at Uber. Uber literally just sells you peace of mind. They just literally connect you with a cab company, or now they own the cabs themselves and things, and people can become an Uber driver. But they sell you peace of mind because they're literally just telling you the nearest Ubers where they are, the ones that you can book or reserve now or call on now, how far away they are, and when they will arrive at your destination roughly, and then booking it. Just convenience of peace of mind is literally their main service they're selling. And so this got me thinking about, well, how could I improve my business's service? As an agency owner, my marketing service, what's one of the simplest things you could do to improve your service? And I think this applies to any business, to be honest, because I was thinking, okay, well, if I took the worst case scenario, which is if worst case scenario, everything kind of falls through, nothing really works out, contractors aren't as great as they claim to be, the service is poor. Like, even in that worst case scenario, which I never ever event for it to be, what could I still do to improve the overall experience for the client? And I thought, well, one of the biggest things that a lot of people mention actually when they take into account this kind of thought process is simply giving clients and any customer progress updates and keeping them in the loop. It's one of the greatest psychological impacts you can have on a customer in improving the customer experience, and literally just telling them what you're doing, especially when their money's on the line and they're investing in your service or your product. Just giving them peace of mind. It's why, for instance, if you had to wait 2.5 weeks, if it was like a Temu or I don't know, like an AliExpress order, and you got to wait 2.5 weeks or 6 weeks to get your product or whatever you've bought, if in some cases they might do, I'm not sure, if they literally give you like maybe 3-day or week by week updates to tell you where the product is, if they gave you SMS and email alerts to tell you like the product's arrived here, the product's arrived there, which they do to an extent, no change in the service other than peace of mind of where your product is. And you can do the exact same thing in a service-based business, in literally giving people updates on what you're actually doing, even if the progress isn't really anything significant. It could literally just be, we've started this campaign. There's still no results. There's still no results compared to what they've wanted to invest in. Like, if you are doing Facebook ads as an agency, then obviously that business is spending a service fee and their money for you to get them results, right? Whereas if you haven't even got them the results yet, you can still give them the kind of dopamine hit of peace of mind, which has amazing psychological impacts. But anyway, I'm rambling, so it's just a real crazy kind of thought process behind how you can improve an experience just based on the psychology behind experiences in the first place. Because instead of having to reinvent the wheel, and I've talked about that before, instead of having to come up with crazy new products or services or renovating this, reinventing that, you can literally just look at how can I apply basically maximum leverage and take an experience and apply a different context, look at it through a different lens and see how I can improve it with the simplest additions. And maybe just sometimes it's a psychological thing, like it could be like, again, like with Uber, you don't really, there is no difference between booking an Uber really and a regular cab, other than a few little extras. But the main thing is peace of mind and convenience. They've obviously got their app and things, but even if it was literally just an app that connected you with the cab companies themselves, basically the primary feature is the tracking feature that gives you the peace of mind of where the cab is and how long it's going to take. That's the main thing. Obviously, paying and things are supplemental things, but the main thing is peace of mind. And it's amazing how many little ways you can improve an experience just with tiny little efforts, which I think is kind of applying as much leverage as you can to a situation to be able to basically help your business and obviously the customer in the best way possible. So yeah, bit of a ramble, bit of a rant, but I thought I'd share that with you and see how it might be able to help you in your business or in your side hustle or whatever you're trying to do, to see generally how you can just improve the overall experience. Maybe for your team as well, like literally things like you can, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but it won't just apply to the customers. It will also apply to team members and anything as well. It's just understanding psychology in a way that we can improve something without having to, like instead of making a whole new car, why don't we just take the car we have and improve some elements of it? Like maybe like the railway example with Rory Sutherland's story. Like if you had to make a new car, instead of making a whole new model, why don't we make a better model that just has like an improved sound system, or update the UI on the software part of it? Like just tiny little things which aren't reinventing and making an entire new car or reinventing it from scratch. Just adding little bonuses which make a massively better experience. So yeah, thought I'd share that with you. Thanks very much for listening, and see you in the next video.